Rigtig spændende koncept.
Ja, man må flere gange stemme, i stedet for at man har tvunget til. Og enten går folk helt med.
Hello, my name is Bach. I'm an Aarhus-based designer. I moved here 6 years ago. I'm a part of a design community and a shop here in Aarhus. I'm a trained fashion designer and I work with doing accessories, sculpture. I teach. That's a little bit about me. For me, designing is very much about seeing, about looking and seeing stories all around me. I love to look and to observe and to notice people, to see what they wear, how they move, how they dress, how they act, how they present themselves, and how their bodies look like, what you can tell about their characters, to see how their clothes fit onto their bodies, to see what they're trying to hide and what they want to show and how they wish to show themselves. I'm very much into cartoons and magical, obscure movies and surrealism and art, and I really like expressions where stories can be told without words, where the stories can be told with material and shape and color. The most interesting and honest exchanges between people is without words. The truth and the honesty is to be found between the words and under the words and over the words and around the words, more than in the words themselves. I'm a designer and I make shape. I make shape in relation to the body and around the body. I use shape as a way of communicating. Fashion is a way of communicating. Fashion contains the history of our people. What we wear can tell something about our ideals and our dreams and our hopes and our fears in a given period of time. It can tell about nationality, of culture and subculture. It can tell about traditions and religion, belonging to a group, and making a social statement, like the punk movement, expressing their hopelessness and their prospects of being the no future generation that we saw in the 70s and the 80s. And punk has been inspiration in fashion since that time in more or less commercialized ways. Also now in the present days you can see a young Muslim woman using punk as a statement of showing her rebellion against prejudice of what it means to be, of other people's prejudices, of what a Muslim girl should be like. It can tell about gender. Playing with gender is used both on stage as in movies, using femininity and masculinity during the different periods of time has changed a lot. And what we wear can also tell something about the conditions, our life conditions. Like, for example, war. This is a wedding dress from just after the Second World War. A dress made out of blue silk from a parachute. Just 1 year after, in 1947, Christian Dior creates his new look. For one dress, you need to use 50 meters of fabric. It seems absurd and grotesque, but also logical in a way, that people really need this glamour and these beautiful fairy tales after a long period of war and suffering and dark times. Being a designer is for me being part researcher, explorer, treasure hunter, being part storyteller and part shape giver, giving shape to stuff, knowing the crafts of shaping. My materials are primarily soft, but I work in all types of materials, depending on the story I'm going to tell and depending on the assignment. When I get a new idea and when I make new work, new designs, it usually begins with like a small hint of something, like a clue, like a shadow. I don't really know the story to begin with, but I need to follow this clue and follow this hint in order to get deeper and deeper into my subjects. And in the end, then it's easier to see what it was all about, to see the story, to see more of a full picture. But in the process, I don't really have an idea of where I'm going and where this little clue or shadow, this hint, where this will lead me. There are no guarantees. Only the fact that I've done it before and I have the experience that tells me that being in process can bring along a lot of treasures. It can give a lot of information of things I didn't know before. It can bring shapes I couldn't imagine and bring stories and characters I didn't know before. So being in process can be both, it's really something really rich and scary and confusing and amazing all at once. This is Lord Snout. He's a character of the teddy bear family, teddy bear Bach family. Lord Snout, he's very much into his looks. He loves to decorate himself with expensive jewelry. He's a charmer. He's a lady's friend with a sparkle in his eye. But he's also very materialistic and wasteful. Besides being a part of the teddy bear family, he's also one of the cards in the teddy bear card game, where one can challenge your opponents with size of room, speed, strength, amount of pearls, sensitivity, and aggressivity. It's Principessa. She's an independent rubber princess of a very strong character. She's really good at riding and lives in the cold desert. And she uses her stolen goods to decorate herself with. And this is Penguin Man. He's very loving, he's very affectionate. He really loves giving hugs, but unfortunately he's so strong, so whenever he gives hugs, he kills people. The history of costume, the body silhouette has changed a lot of times. In the period of Baroque, it was very much a fashion to look pregnant and look fat as a sign of health and fertility. Back then, they create the body silhouette with the costume. So I took this inspiration and flipped it a little bit around and looked at old people. Here the body silhouette, it changes in a natural way. I looked at different bodies, what old people wear, what types of colors they like, what materials they like. And I made the story of an old body, but still with a playful mind. And made a collection with this inspiration, where I wanted to show this contradiction between the old body and the young mind. So through pattern cutting, I work with creating the illusion of an old body on a young person's body. All the information I get in my research of finding inspirational shape and inspirational material and color, I can use this in many different ways. It can be the beginning of a sculpture, of a fashion collection, of accessories, of home accessories, whatever. For exhibition purposes, you really have the opportunity to show your story and to show your universe and expression in the purest and most unspoiled way. And whatever fun and crazy shapes you've developed, you can just let them be what they are. You don't really need to adjust them like you need when you make, for example, something that you wear that needs to be washed, where you need to consider all sorts of practical issues. This is an accessories collection called Root Animal Grow in All Types of Hair. It's inspired by a root sculpture I made. The inspiration is like the uterus and roots and a story built up around that. And as an audience, you need to get down on your knees in order to look into the different holes of the sculpture, which is made out of cut up foam mattress, and it's something about being nothing and becoming something. At that time, I became a member of a design shop, so I needed to make something that I could sell as well. So I placed these little root animals on the body. On the hanger, you could read that a root animal is like a little friendly animal, and maybe eventually he could become your friend. I did a lot of freestyle crocheting in the sculpture, and this has developed into trees and other shapes that you can use for placing jewelry on it, for example, or just as a textile objects in the home. And I really like this duality of working crossover, of working on the body or making something in relation to a room where it relates to an audience. And I like to work between like making the strongest expression possible and then turning that into something sellable as well. Weddings, they are a celebration of joy and happiness, and the uniting two people, and youth and fruitfulness and fertility. I made this tree as a wedding present for a dear friend, and it has developed into more trees and into accessories, into the berry sphere necklace, into the big berry bracelet. And more stories come up of the collection of, the Unfold Me collection, for example, of folded leather accessories. I think a piece of work is finished when it starts communicating on its own. Then it has gotten its own life, and then it doesn't really need the designer anymore. And making something successful is, to me, making something that attracts and something that has a large effect on people. And I think this happens when people recognize something of their own story, of their own tale in the art piece or design object or whatever. That's it. That's all I had.